What's up, everybody? Mix of Games here, coming at you with episode 9 of our Madden franchise Give Me Some Cap series. So we just left off of week 8. We actually made a pretty significant trade in getting rid of Carlos Dunlap back to his previous team. And we actually end up picking up Jordan Willis from them, who is an even more beast of an overall, still really super young, and as well in his rookie contract. So that is going to be an amazing addition for us. We did have to lose, unfortunately, our left end slot, but we do have our rookie Tremont Penfile here that we're going to move in, and hopefully we're going to see how he does develop. He actually has some pretty decent all-around stats, so hopefully he does end up doing pretty well for us, and that'll be a significant change. But we're going to continue on here with the episode, and we are facing the 4-2 Jacksonville Jaguars once again. I believe in the last time that we faced off, we ended up losing against them. So we're going to see if we can actually get redemption, and hopefully we can end up going 3-5 against them. So let's jump right in ahead, and let's see what we can actually get done. Hopefully we do come out with a 3-5. And unfortunately we don't. So we do end up losing by a touchdown, 31-24, not too bad. But like I said, this season, even though it looks like it will be a disappointing season considering playoff aspirations, we are going to be getting a relatively higher draft round pick. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal if we do have a down season, because at the same time we're also going to be getting XP for certain developmental players that we're hoping to take the next step in the next season, especially on our offensive line and hopefully our guys on the defensive line. But Deshaun Watson actually had a relatively decent game, 318 yards, 2 touchdowns, only 1 pick, and a couple sacks. And our running game wasn't really there, but Malcolm Bond is seriously hindering us with these fumbles that he keeps on causing, or keeps on going through. But yeah, our receiving game actually did pretty well. DeAndre Hopkins had 8 catches, 95 yards with the touchdown, and our blocking only gave up a couple sacks, and one was by our backup left tackle, and probably one outside of the pocket when it doesn't usually show it up as a stat line. And our defense really didn't get much going in there. We couldn't get that much pressure as well as get that many stops. But one thing I did want to check was actually the production level that we were getting from Carlos Dunlap. So if we go quickly in here and we go into the Bengals series, and let's just see what kind of production he was actually getting. And let's just reorder everything here and see what Carlos Dunlap was actually rolling with. So yeah, so considering the contract, unfortunately, that he wanted, and that's not even considering if he got any stats with the computer, he really wasn't having that much of a productive season. So only 31 tackles altogether considering the assists. So only 31 tackles, 3.5 sacks, which really isn't that much. Their Geno Atkins is doing better, and even their Tyrone Crawford was actually doing better. And then, I can't really say how much production he actually got in this past week that we just simmed, but I think I'm actually really okay with what we ended up giving up for him. And we're going to put a hold off on negotiating contracts because we did actually fill out the contracts that we needed. We will take another gander at it just to kind of look at what we wanted. But I believe Jalen Strong was our quote-unquote main priority, at least in overall level-wise. And he's pretty much our 4th-string receiver, so that really doesn't tell you much about him. And doesn't look like he's going to be staying with the team. And we could always just pick him up as well in free agency if we do want to circle back and decide to pick him up. But yeah, if we do check in, we did made a huge amount of signings. Oh yeah, we still have Kevin Johnson actually. Yeah, so this is another guy that he wanted. So he kept saying he wanted more, I believe, of a bonus and duration. So we're going to bring down the salary just a tad bit to 6.6 mil, and we are going to bump up the bonus up to 2.8. So if we drop it down back to 4 mil, we're really only giving him another mil more. So let's see if we just go to 2.85 and see what he thinks about this contract. So that is exactly what he was hoping for, and we actually do get him for a 5th season, which is actually not that bad. So we really only end up giving him probably like $1.5 million more than what he actually wanted, but we did lock him down for another year, which to me that's an even bigger win. I'm surprised he was actually wanting that. So that works out perfect in our books. So yeah, so the last few guys that we're just going to have, we're going to look at their end of the year value. and then really decide there if they're worth keeping, if they're worth a decent backup spot. And if not, we're just going to let them into free agency. And then hopefully this year's free agency class is going to look a little bit better than the last year's. Last year's was okay. There were only a couple big names out there. But I'm really excited for this year's free agency spot. And hopefully we can actually get in there and make some moves. But we are going against the 3-4 Redskins. And hopefully we can actually come out with a victory here. Like I said, whether it's an up and down year doesn't really matter to us because we are going to get a higher overall pick, and that's probably going to work out better for us in the long run. So we do lose 30-38, unfortunately. So let's just kind of look at our stats and see what's going on here. So Deshaun Watson actually really had a really good game. Other than getting sacked once, he pretty much played his lights out. 354 yards, 2 touchdowns, really nothing crazy going on there. And we do have Lamar Miller pretty doing okay. Well, he was only averaging 3.1 yards a carry, not that much. And we did have Hopkins just give up a fumble. But our receiving game was definitely on point. The ball was definitely being thrown around to everybody, and that was actually really, really awesome. And on the defensive side, we do have Whitney Merciless getting a good old 14 tackles and pretty much just a sack on the line, and as well as a little bit of pressure. But we do end up losing that game, so that was actually pretty hindering. I believe if our running game was just a little bit better, then I do believe that probably could have propelled us forward and hopefully gotten the victory, because Watson was playing his lights out. So we might need to be looking at some halfbacks in the long run. But you know what? Let's take a look at free safeties, because we did trade for Budda Baker. But at the same time, let's see if he's not developing well, who else we could have. But it shows me right away that this year's free safety class is definitely not one that's going to be good. And really no one in here is enticing, not even anybody for a backup role. And we still have Andre Hall behind us, so he's going to add a little bit more of a veteran depth to us, so that's going to be perfect for us. And hopefully Budda Baker does excel with developing as well. But here we go, week 10. We are on a bye week, so we're not going to have any matchups, but we're going to sim for the XP. And we actually should be getting a little bit more XP with that coaching package that we purchased for Bill O'Brien. So it does look like we are getting a little bit more XP, and it's going to be perfect, because that's pretty much at the end of the season what we're going to be investing in. So let's sim here. We don't have a game, but we are going to be facing the Tennessee Titans, and they are currently at 5-4. So they're actually doing pretty well, surprisingly, in our division. But the Jaguars are leading the pack at 7-2, and we are right behind the Colts at 4-5. So we are at the bottom of the division. Not really sure what other teams are going to have a worse record than us, but we're going to be figuring that out. But I do believe that one of our immediate needs is also going to be a right guard, but we did scout that out. So we still kind of need to go through our offensive line and just revamp a couple more pieces. I'm definitely praying, or not really praying, I'm definitely hoping that our tackle spots are definitely going to develop. I know our left tackle is 100%, because there's no way with his stats and development that he doesn't develop. That would just be insane. But I am hoping that our right tackle does develop a little bit better. He does have some really good run blocking. We just need to increase his awareness, which is, for sure, because he's a rookie. And we also need to bring up his pass blocking, which is actually a little bit easier to do when one is more than the other. So considering that his run blocking, I believe, was an 84 and 86, and I think his pass blocking is a 70 around there, it's going to be easier to just invest into awareness and pass blocking rather than trying to balance all three out and then just, make them a little bit more well-rounded. But I do believe, so 73 and then an 85. Yeah, so his awareness is really, really what's bringing him down, and that's all right. They are losing a little bit of a confidence because of the sacks that they're allowing, but believe me, it's going to work out with the development that they're going to be able to get. So let's end the week, and let's see if we can take down the Tennessee Titans and make them go 5-5, and we do. So we win 31-28, and we do bring them down a little bit, just a notch in our division. So that's a good divisional win, and it's going to be a good thing to just stick it right to them. So let's see here. So here we go. Another wonderful game by Deshaun Watson and even Mariota, but he did get sacked 4 times, so that's actually a really nice highlight right there. But he threw for 318 yards, 2 touchdowns, and only got sacked a couple times. Our ground game picked it up a little bit considering from the last game. 19 carries for 68 yards, but we did have Malcolm Bond with that 1 touchdown, which was nice. And DeAndre Hopkins lit up the Titans secondary for 8 catches, 137 yards, and that touchdown. And so did Will Fuller as a nice complimentary piece. So that is actually really nice. So yeah, once again, our tackles do give up a pair of sacks between themselves, but that's all right. And we actually do get some nice pressure here. So we'd have even our strong safety coming down from the top to get a sack. We have our left end, Tremont Penfowl, who is starting from that Carlos Dunlap pull, and we do have Clowney plugging it up with 2 sacks of his own as well. So that's really, really well. So Will Lutz did have 1 miss, which is actually a little bit disappointing. But that's all right. He should be getting some XP as well, and we'll be able to bring that up. He has really, really good kick power, which I'm surprised. And that's going to be awesome, because then that just means we're going to have to just invest in his awareness and accuracy. So that's going to be pretty mint. I always like to have kickers with a little bit more of a power, and then we could just boost up the accuracy and everything else amongst them, which is actually really better. So we do fill out the offensive line scouting needs, and it doesn't look like we're going to be going for anybody crazy. We do have the one right end, Carlos Lewis, I believe that's what his name was. We do want to we have him on a draft board, and he's going to be our #1 priority, whether Penfowl makes it or not. I think he's a guy that we should definitely be going all in on, and we are probably going to be moving up pretty high if we see fit that we do have to move up, but we should be getting a decent overall pick. But here we're going against the Miami Dolphins at 5-5, and let's see if we can actually get a little win streak going on. It is kind of a double-edged sword, because sometimes you do want the season to just keep going down, and sometimes you do want it to go up. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to get the pick that we're going to get, and if we could have a decent record or a bad record, either way, it doesn't matter. But as you saw from the news on the left, we walloped the Miami Dolphins 49-10. What a demolish. Pretty much what the Colts almost did to us, which is insane. So let's see here. So Deshaun Watson played his ass off with 206 yards. Really nothing crazy, so I'm excited to see what our rushing yards are at. But he did throw for 4 touchdowns and only took in a couple sacks. But we sacked Ryan Tannehill 5 times, and that is awesome news just to look at. And Lamar Miller definitely goes off with 13 carries and 144 yards for 2 touchdowns. Even our backup quarterback, which I'm not even sure how this works out, rushes for 2 yards. For 2 attempts, rushes 2 times for 60 yards and gets a touchdown. And he broke two tackles, and his longest run was a 55. So the running game was pretty much held with our main running back and even our backup quarterback, which I don't get how that works out. But hey, I'm not complaining, because our passing game was even on point. Lamar Miller having a 1 reception, 76-yard catch for a touchdown. Absolutely amazing. So it really was probably an 8-yard catch that he got 68 yards afterwards, and it totaled up to that. So that is absolutely awesome. Just crazy to see those numbers. I can only imagine what they would have been in fantasy football. He would have had a shitload of points, so that would have been awesome. And we do have Jadeveon Clowney going in with a sack and a half. Whitney Merciless at the same time, and even our new acquisition, Jordan Willis, clogging up that and getting a sack on his own. So that works out perfectly in our favor. We get some really good pressure, and our run game was literally just unstoppable for the Dolphins. There was really nothing that they could do. I'm still questioning on how the quarterback actually got in there and was able to create some mayhem, which is actually pretty sick. But that is awesome. Let's fill out these D tackle spots, and let's see what other guys we can actually find here for a little bit more depth, because our D tackle spot is actually, it's really, really quiet, even though it says that it is a B-, but to me it's not like a big scary guy that you have up there as a nose tackle, or anyone like a Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald. No one like that, and I think that's probably going to be something that we should look into. Possibly a trade for the future, wink wink. But let's see if we can actually get some sort of nice big old DT in there, because our linebacking core is awesome. Our safeties are pretty good, and our corners are all right. But I think our D-line definitely needs a little bit of help. We do have that Willis up there, which is actually really nice. But we have a rookie left end starting now, and like I said, we do have kind of like a sleeping defensive tackle core. So that's probably going to be something that we are going to be looking into. And we do lose against the New York Jets 27-21, so that's a little bit of a disappointment. So let's see here what kind of production we actually did get from this game and see if there are any positives to be looking out for. So Deshaun Watson has been limiting his interceptions, which I've actually been liking that quite a bit. Our running game was a little bit sleepy, and our receiving game was actually pretty good. DeAndre Hopkins, six catches, 73 yards, and 2 touchdowns, so not too bad. And then our blocking's pretty much, again, is going to be right at our tackles. So I feel like if our tackles are the biggest, let's say, weakest link for this season, then to me that's a positive. Because considering that our left tackle is just legit a really, really good rookie, but keyword rookie, his awareness isn't going to be anywhere where we actually do need him to be at. And it's going to hinder his performance because he's going to be allowing a lot more sacks. But he's actually really nice because he does have the coverage or the blocking stats, actually. He has those over the awareness, and believe me, I would much rather be investing in awareness than having to do, like I said before, in all three, where we have to balance them out and then add more into the blocking stats. And I'm just hoping that our right tackle does develop a little bit as well and get some decent XP. So we are going up against the New York Giants, so back-to-back New York teams. So that's pretty actually funny. It would have been crazy if we were playing in the same stadium twice, but we are playing at MetLife. And did we play? No, yeah. So the Jets played at us. Okay. So they are 3-9, so they're a little bit less than us. So I'm wondering if we can either even up and they go 4-9 and we go 4-9, or if we can actually go 5-8. And hopefully end the season at an 8-8 season. But let's jump right in and see what we do end up getting. And we end up losing, yeah. So now me and the Giants are tied up with 4-9 records. So we end up losing by quite a bit here. It was 21-35. So we do kind of get our butts whooped with a couple touchdowns. But Deshaun Watson actually had a really nice game, other than the 2 interceptions that he did throw. He has a really, really good game. 413 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 sacks. And our running game was nowhere to be found. This is where our receiving game definitely came to play. CJ Fredowitz, 9 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. And Amendola showing it off in the slot position with 8 catches, 138 yards, and another touchdown himself. So that was actually really good. And yep, just another thing is pretty much our tackles, giving them some stops. But we do have Benedict McKinney here going off with 15 tackles on his own, even half a sack. And so did Clowney as well. And actually a few more half a sacks all the way around. So that was actually not that bad pressure. We wish we could have gotten a little bit more. But I think it was more due to our running game just not even helping out on our offense. And that just put too much weight on Deshaun Watson's shoulders. Nothing much that he can do other than just try and bear the load and keep chugging along. So let's see here if there are any other defensive players that we could be looking at. So we do see Brian Mack right off the bat. So he is a 3-4 pass rusher, and he actually has B+ all the way around. So that actually entices me pretty well, even though we don't need a right outside linebacker. But if it's talent that we can actually take, that would be pretty good to the value of our pick. Then we're obviously going to jump right into it, and then hopefully we can snag it for a W. And see if we can actually draft them and then move them around or whatever we need to do. But our number one focus is getting that Carter Lewis, because he is just going to help out our D-line, and he is a little bit more physical than that right outside linebacker. So we're stimming out the weekly training here, and we are going against the Titans once again at 7-6, and we are 4-9. So let's see if we can bring them back down to earth and bring them at 7-7. Let's see if we can definitely get this victory. And we do. Okay, yeah, so we beat them 35-24. We are just holding them down so that they don't manage to make it into the playoffs. We know the Jacksonville Jaguars are, so that's a little bit of a bummer, but that's all right. And we do have Deshaun Watson going off on him once again. 255 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 sacks himself. Lamar Miller was actually here to play with 17 rushes for 64 yards and a touchdown. But DeAndre Hopkins blew everything out of the water. 8 receptions, 168 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So that would have been an insane fantasy stat line as well. That would actually be a pretty cool feature if they added that along. And we actually do get a pair of picks between our corners and a sack as well. So not too shabby. Our kicker has been missing a few field goals here and there, so we're definitely going to have to keep an eye out on how much XP he's actually going to be getting. But our division is actually rounding out a little bit different than what we saw in the beginning. So by week, I believe it was 3 or 4, we were actually tied for second. But the Jacksonville Jaguars are taking the division away with 12-2. The Titans are 7-7. We just brought them down, thankfully. The Colts are 5-9, and we are 5-9. So technically, we're still paired for third, or tied for third, and we do see the Colts at week 17. So let's finish up here with the scouting needs that we do have. And I say we're probably going to go into the corners now and just check these guys out. So there are a boatload of these first round picks. And that's exactly what I'm saying. If you guys waste all your XP on the top level talent, not a guarantee that you're even going to have those picks, because it's more common to have more or multiple later round picks as thirds or fourths than having an abundance of first round picks. So we are going to be coming back to these guys, and we're going to be seeing what guy is going to fit our scheme and hopefully take him on to the team. But we are going against, I believe, the 8-6 Bills. So let's see if we can actually keep them humble as well and make them go 8-7 for the week. And then after that, pretty much whatever they end up going is what they go. Definitely not making it to the playoffs this season, so it's going to be pretty much just banking on some of our guys developing. But we do have Long Lewis here already with 23,000 XP, and actually everybody on our offensive line is over 10,000, so that's actually really, really good. So let's go in and let's see if we can actually go 6-9 against the Buffalo Bills and see if we can actually pull out a victory between them. And we do. Oh no, we don't actually. Unfortunately, we do lose 24-19. We go 5-10, and I just saw that the Colts are also 5-10. So that is actually pretty funny. We are going to be, I guess, in a way, playing for the tiebreaker here, unless we actually manage to pull out a tie, which would be pretty funny. But Deshaun Watson did have an all-right game. He did get sacked quite a bit. I wish I would have seen a little bit more yards thrown on his way, but not too shabby. Everything around was just kind of low scoring and low production. And our tackles definitely pretty much, I wouldn't say messed up the season, but they definitely hindered what our progression could have been. If we end up going 5-10 with all these sacks that we've allowed and the bunch of fumbles that we've had in the beginning of the season, then I think that's a pretty successful season to me. Considering that we could have limited a bunch of that stuff and just kept on going, and probably would have gotten a lot better than what we were. So here we're going to scout out a few more guys on the corner spot, all these first rounders. We're just going to take an eye on them, see what they have to offer, and then after that go into our weekly training. And at the same time, we also going to have to we're going to have to check out the middle linebackers just to finish off the year. Once we do come around and get a little bit more scouting points. So here we're going to sim the weekly training, hoping to take down the Colts for the final game of the season, make them go 5-11 while we do go 6-10, and hopefully it is something we can pull off and get a little bit of a division rival, rubbing it right into their faces, and hopefully we do get the victory. And yes, we do. So we end up finishing the season 6-10, beating the Indianapolis Colts. And let's just see. So the Jaguars and the Seahawks pretty much had the best records, as well as the Patriots, but the Jaguars were on top. So unfortunately, we don't make the playoffs this season. But at the same time, so Tom Brady does win MVP. So let's check out the awards and see if we do get something at all between a rookie or anybody of us. So league MVP does go to, once again, Tom Brady, and he should probably be retiring after the season, but he's accomplished a lot already, and it's insane that he's still even playing right now. So Doug Marrone does get Coach of the Year. Pretty much figured that. So let's check out the AFC. And Tom Brady does get the Offensive Player. Defensive Player of the Year was Miles Jack. Fortunately, we didn't have anybody on there. And Offensive Rookie does go to Trenton Lawson on the Cleveland Browns. And we did have Malcolm Bond, surprisingly, coming in at number 2 with all the fumbles that he even caused. But Trenton Lawson does get Offensive Rookie, even though the Browns go 2-14. Crazy to think when we played them in Week 2 that they were 1-1. So they got their second victory. Oh no, we actually beat them. So they only got one more victory after that, which is pretty nuts. So Defensive Rookie does go to Nigel Freeman, which was very, very disappointing because this is the safety that we wanted to pick up, and the Bills just snagged him right under our noses. I didn't think he was going to go in the top 10, and I think he actually ended up going number 9. So the Bills do kind of screw us over there, and they pick up the guy that we did want. Obviously, best QB goes to Brady. Le'Veon Bell wins. Running back, Brandon Cooks wins. Wide receiver, Cam Robinson does win. Offensive line, obviously our offensive line was horrible. So best defensive line does go to Myles Garrett. Linebacker goes to Talvin Smith. Malcolm Butler gets best defensive back, and Graham Cano gets kicker, best kicker of the year. So looking at our stat line, actually, other than the 43 sacks that we've absorbed this season, Deshaun Watson had a pretty productive year. So he passes for over 4,500 yards. He gets 31 touchdowns compared to 12 picks, which is actually pretty good. And like I said, other than the sacks that he did give up or that he did take, I think that was a pretty good stat line by him, and he should be getting a decent amount of XP. So we do have a 1,000-yard rusher with Lamar Miller. He does break it with 1,044 yards and 8 touchdowns. Didn't have a fumble, but we have Malcolm Bond over here with 9. That is definitely alarming, and that caused us quite a bit of games. So we do have only DeAndre Hopkins breaking the 1,000-yard barrier over here with 1,234 and 10 touchdowns. That's the production you're going to be getting from your number 1 receiver. And CJ actually had a pretty good stat line. Would have liked to seen a little bit more receiving touchdowns, but 88 catches for 881 yards, considering the contract we gave him, that's actually pretty fair. And we actually got some relatively good value out of the Danny Amendola pickup in free agency. He does have some good stat lines to go with. So Jalen Strong did want a contract, but he wasn't even seen on the field. That's mainly because Amendola was on the 3rd spot, and then everybody else just kind of rounds out behind him. So it doesn't look like we're gonna be needing his services. Now, considering all the sacks that we've allowed, definitely came mostly from our right tackles and left tackle, which is understandable. We're gonna be able to bump that up a lot and get that fixed out. But we do have 2 nice defensive players over 100 tackles. We do have our backup or our second string corner, Artie Burns, with 107, and Benardic McKinney with 134. And who was leading the pack on sacks? So we can't really count Jordan Willis because we don't know how many sacks he actually got before we traded for him, but for him to have double-digit sacks, that's amazing. We did have Clowney with 12.5 and Whitney Merciless with 6.5, but really beyond that, nothing too crazy. Only a couple here and there, one here and there. So we definitely need to get more pressure on the defense, and we're probably going to have to be looking into our D-tackle spots and checking out what kind of upgrades we could be making. Only a pair of touchdowns to go around the secondary. Nothing too crazy there, and our kicker definitely let us down. 6 missed field goals, we can't be having that. The 1 missed extra point, that's just ridiculous. And I don't believe we had any kick returns, so nothing too crazy going on there. So all in all, it was sort of a disappointing season, but at the same time, it was probably mainly kind of a building season as well. So we don't have to re-sign any of our staff. We're going to be keeping Bill O'Brien for at least another year until his contract does expire, and then we'll be able to be good after that. So we do finish off the season 6-10, so not too bad. We've signed all of our practice squad members, and I do say we have a lot of XP to go around in all directions on our lines, in defense and offense. So pretty interesting. So I'm gonna leave this episode here, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I will be finishing off the playoff run and then heading into free agency in the next episode, so stay tuned for that. That's gonna be the exciting period right before the draft, and it's gonna be an exciting episode. But hopefully you guys enjoy it, and as always, please remember to like, subscribe, and comment with any questions that you might have or any suggestions on this series or any other series in general. And as always, this is Mix of Games. Hopefully you guys are having a good afternoon. Peace.